Hey everybody! It's so great to be on this stage for the second time of this trip to Korea. I was here last week, but really excited to talk to you today a little bit about how we can make Web3 UX a hell of a lot simpler. For a little bit of context, my name's Phil Hedayatnia. I co-founded, along with my co-founder Min Kim, who's in the audience today, a company called Airfoil, where basically we do product design, branding, go-to-market, and engineering for companies in the Web3 space. For those of you in the back, if you're interested in product design at all, or if you're interested in even just understanding a little bit more about the mindset of how to make your applications simpler, really excited to speak with you all today. Maybe familiar with some of our work from working with the Solana Labs and Near Foundation teams, working with Euler Finance, with Stello Wallet, Utopia Labs, and many more. But I want to start, before we start talking about design, to talk a little bit more about why we're all here, fundamentally, and why we're interested in building decentralized applications. And for that, I want to start with my own story. These are actually my parents, my dad and my mom, who both moved to the United States from other countries. My dad moved from Iran, my mom moved from Colombia. Both of them moved in the 70s because things happened in their lives. In the case of my mother's family, my grandfather that you see there was originally the general accountant of the Banco de Bogotá, which is the largest bank in Colombia at that time. But in the 1970s, that bank was bombed, and my family fled and moved to the United States, where my grandfather went from being an accountant with an economics degree to being a house cleaner in Queens, New York. That was always something that frustrated me. He'd worked hard to earn his credentials. He'd worked hard to earn his reputation and develop skills. But when he switched countries, all of that went away. So I saw this again and again. It seemed to me like something that was unjust, and it was something that I wanted to fix. So I was on the founding team of a company called Trusted4 that went through YC about 5 years ago, where we were basically trying to reinvent LinkedIn so that people could recommend others for things they're good at, and we could use that recommendation data to match people with jobs and opportunities. And this was actually my first time properly working as a product designer. But unfortunately, we face the fate of most of LinkedIn's direct competitors. When you try to build on top of LinkedIn's data, they tend to get rather litigious, and they sued us as well as many of our direct competitors. So we had to relent and close up shop. And this is my general frustration with the way that the Web2 web works. Things don't connect with each other. Data can't be shared easily between applications. And people have an incentive to build moats against innovation rather than connecting things together. That's what initially got me interested in blockchain. Finally, a single identity you can use across the web, a way to accept funds no matter who or where you are without censorship, a common layer for applications to share data so you don't need to onboard again and again, and a way to store credentials that come with you. But unfortunately, this is what that experience actually looks like for people. So the reason that I want to talk about design is not as much because of the tech, it's because of the people who can be helped by it. As long as the experiences people use when they enter Web3 look like this, they're not going to be accessible to the masses, and the vision that we're all working towards won't actually happen. But of course, a common refrain that I hear in response is that it's just a matter of time. Yes, most wallets are difficult to use. Yes, most DEXs are difficult to use, but these are all just kinks that'll be worked out with time. But my argument is that I don't think we have that time, because every day that we don't make those experiences better is a day when scammers can take advantage of these deficits in UX, and where traditional companies, Web2 companies, back away from our industry, like Discord removing its Wallet Connect support, or Microsoft banning the use of NFTs on Minecraft. So I would contend that we stand to lose the single greatest opportunity of our time, to build an open, innovative, and free web for the world. So how do we solve this? How do we fix this? I think we got to change our mindset. Design is a massive topic, and what I love about today is that you just heard an amazing talk on principles of UX from one of the most successful folks in the Cosmos ecosystem, and we're going to go right into another talk talking about UX and UI. But it's for that reason that I want to focus on that mindset, because you don't need to be a professional designer to embrace a set of common principles that'll help you communicate better and it'll help you reach more users. There's a pretty classic quote about design from a guy named Don Norman, who wrote a book called The Design of Everyday Things. Design is really an act of communication, which means having a deep understanding of the person with whom the designer is communicating. Fundamentally, what that means is that building is about us. Building is about making sure that our products are well engineered, that they're fast, that they're efficient. But designing is about everyone else. It's about understanding the mindset of the people you're communicating to. It's about understanding where they come from, anticipating that, and designing interfaces that can respond to any complaints or anything that might be running through their head before they even know it. Designing is about understanding your user, rather than the process you take to build your application. And it's for that reason that design matters. Because if we design products with a clear understanding of what our users need, our products will be more responsive, and importantly, they'll be more successful as a result. So today I want to go over 3 general principles around the mindset of design. And of course, there's a lot more detail in that as well, and a lot more fine-tuned points that I'm going to share. But first, let's start with the importance of communicating with your users. Now, what I worry about when we talk about design is that we think about it solely as something visual. And that's part of why I never thought I'd be a professional designer, because I am not a good illustrator. If you would have seen my badge at Biddle, you would have known that even my handwriting isn't really much to write home about. But let's start with how we position our products and the importance of starting with why. There's a TED Talk that I really love called How Great Leaders Inspire Action. It's by a guy named Simon Sinek. And he articulates this idea of the golden circle, the why, the how, and the what. So what does that mean? If you're Lenovo and you're selling a computer, then you probably start with the what and move in. You say that the computer has a sharp screen, it has very long battery life, it is beautifully designed, it's easy to use. The how being that you hire the best designers and the best engineers. And the why is kind of fuzzy. It's not really clear why Lenovo exists as a business, just that they do. Apple, on the other hand, goes from the inside out. They start with why. We believe that technology should be easy to use. We believe that the tech you use should fade into your everyday life, that it should bring joy to your face. We hire the best designers, we hire the best engineers. The what? We just happen to make computers want to buy one. It's a fundamentally different way to explain products, but it's far more responsive to the way that people actually think. Across crypto, we see lots of examples of people advertising the what? A crypto wallet and gateway to blockchain apps. Discover, collect, and sell extraordinary NFTs. And to be true, these are very straightforward headlines. But that's because they're designed for an audience that knows exactly what they mean from the beginning. They're expressing the what and not the why. It's totally possible to flip that on its head, though. Build a bonfire for your community. Now, Bonfire just happens to allow you to create social tokens so that you can bring your community together as an artist, but the point of it is that it's about bringing people together. With Bonfida, a humanized ID for the metaverse. The important part is that that ID, it isn't just that you get a .sol domain, but the important part is that it's humanized, that it reflects you. And we mentioned here, get verified so everyone knows it's really you, rather than just stating that it's about verification. And here's one of my favorites that we worked on, Stello. Explore Web3 with confidence. Stello is a layer that lives in front of MetaMask to warn you if you're about to, inadvertently lose your wallet to a Web3 scam. So we could have just said that. We could have just said that this is a protection layer for Web3. But instead we express the feeling, the why. Explore Web3 with confidence. If you download Stello, you will feel more confident as you interface with these Web3 applications. The goal here is to get to what I would call an intrinsically good value, something that on its face is a positive for the user. In other words, it's not enough to say something like we're revolutionizing something, which is a word that I see often overused. It's not enough to say you're changing something. You have to use phrasing and language that infers that that change is fundamentally good. With Hologram, become your digital self, bring your brand to life, connect, create, and play. We could have stated it as take your NFTs and turn them into 3D characters, which is what Hologram does. But more importantly, we emphasize the things you can do with Hologram, because that's what we know users will actually connect with. Second, and to also mention some gaming references as we talk about UX, which I love, it's important to do what I would call minding your user's health bar. Now, I'm sure most of us have gone through an RPG game before, where as you move through the map, little by little, your character gets more and more tired, or their health bar gradually goes down. So how do you make it past those levels? It's through power-ups. It's through little power-ups that you can ingest along the way that raise that health bar right back up. And that, in and of itself, is another important principle of design. Here's a good example. This is Glow Wallet, one of the wallets on Solana, and across crypto, probably one of my favorite wallets when it comes to its UI design overall. Now, when creating a wallet, it would have been totally possible for Dan and the team at Glow to jump you straight from create new wallet at the beginning all the way to welcome to your wallet at the end. There's no reason they needed these two screens in the middle. So why'd they add them? They added them because seeing a wallet turn, rotate, and fall through space, seeing creating your wallet, verifying your key, backing up to iCloud, seeing a screen that says welcome, and that explains that the process that you just went through and the backup process was helping you in making it easier for you to recover your wallet, all of that is resetting that health bar. Because when someone downloads your wallet, they've given you minutes of their time. They've gone to the App Store, they've searched for your wallet, they've hit download, they've opened it on their phone, they've clicked a button, they've done a lot of things for you. This is an opportunity to reward them. Reset that health bar, bring their excitement back up, because when a user gets into a wallet for the first time, it's overwhelming. There's so many different things they could do. They can buy, they can receive, they can go through an app store and find decentralized apps to interact with. There's so many things they can do. We need to make sure that that health bar is as far up as it possibly can. Here's another example from one DEX that we worked on, Drift Protocol. Whenever there's anything that is slow, whenever there's a trade that's taking a long time, immediately provide users feedback on the results of their actions. You can't see that on the PDF, but the gradient that we have there actually is turning, so that the gradient is constantly changing in color as the user's there. Those little details matter so much, because it's almost like just telling the user, it's like giving them a pat on the back, saying, hang in there, we're almost there. But that makes a massive difference in whether or not your users continue to use it. And you can even think of this more in a more meta sense. This is the example of Blur. Between season 1 and season 2, there's a lot of time, right? There's a lot of new features that the team is working on cooking up. And using the initial airdrop to give early adopters the ability to vote on elements of the roadmap is yet another way to reset their health bar. So as other DEXs launch and other things are trying to pull their attention away, you can give them a reason to stay with the platform even after you've done your initial release. But let's say that you've communicated effectively with your users, and they're sold. They want to engage with your application. I want to talk a little bit about how we can make sure that they move through their onboarding flows and all the desired actions you want them to as clearly as possible. How do we prepare users for major points of friction? This is something that is done very, very well in Web 2, but is generally not done particularly well in Web 3. This is an example of an app called Cluster. It's an old social photo app. This is actually a screenshot from an iPhone 4. Whenever you're developing a social app is only as good as the people on it. If you have a chat application, you need to have people to chat with. But getting people to join a new platform is hard. There's lots and lots of friction involved. So typically, an app like this will ask iOS for the iOS address book so that it can find your contacts and you can reach them on Cluster. But this has a problem. A scary screen that comes up saying Cluster would like to access your contacts. Now, if the contact book isn't shared with the application, there's a big problem, which is you've got a social app, but you've got no way to see who among your friends are actually on it. What does that result in? It results in people clicking away. It's also not great either if they just say okay to everything and share all of their information. So how did we solve this in Web 2? It's by adding an intermediary step. Use address book. Inviting friends is simple when choosing them from the address book on your phone. Otherwise, you'll have to type contact info individually. Use address book. Now, here's why this is really smart. It's not just that it's warning you that a scary screen is going to happen. it's actually reframing that scary screen entirely. It's saying that instead of taking your data, it's saying, we are going to make it easier for you to connect with people if you give us your data. Reframing something that could cause a user to be alarmed as something that could cause them to be excited. This is, however, the way it looks in Web3. By and large, you enter an application, you click Connect Wallet, you get a series of scary pop-ups, and you either do one of two things. You either sign everything, which leads to people just signing away their wallets and their privacy, or, well, you cancel, and then you can't move forward in the application and have a successful experience, which looks eerily similar to the example that I gave before in Web 2. Web 2 does get this right. Sometimes users need to give you their data or their information or connect their wallet in order to have a better experience, but you've got to explain to them how it helps them to give you that information. You've got to explain how taking that action benefits the user. So how would we do that with something like a Connect Wallet flow? Well, one place for all of your collectibles. Never log in again. Access for mobile and desktop. Rather than telling the user what they're about to do, tell them why that thing is going to help them. And in an even bigger sense, I believe that it's possible often to give first, then expect in return. This is about a year ago in Singapore, where I live, in the Raffles Hotel, one of the most famous hotels in Singapore. There's actually an NFT gallery. And to thank people for coming to the NFT gallery, it offers everyone an airdrop. But this is the actual page that they have up there to let you know how to get started. And the line that you can barely see down there says, and that's it, send us your wallet address at our website and we'll send you our free NFT. No one's doing this. And that's precisely the issue, because this is something that could get people onboarded well. It could be very effective, but it's really hard to use. My contention would be that everything can be reframed as give first, then ask. And the core sin to this is the expectation that you need to do the work first in order to get that airdrop. I don't even think that's necessary. So here's a good example in Solana. This is a wallet-to-wallet messaging app called Dialect. And look, a messaging app isn't valuable unless you have friends on it. And if you're an early adopter, you probably don't have friends on it. But when you open Dialect, it welcomes you with an airdrop of a sticker pack called the Welcome Pack. So in other words, before you've done the work to get more people on Dialect offers you a thank you just for the process you went through just to get started. And what does that lead to? It leads to users that are more likely to continue, onboard their friends, and bring more people into the space. Last year at a hacker house that happened in Barcelona, a few members of our team put together something called Bloombox. Typically, if you were to send somebody an asset, in order for them to, if you were going to send somebody an asset so you could onboard them into Web3, you would have to ask them to go download a wallet first, send you their wallet address, and then you could go send them that asset. So we created this. Basically creates this beautiful box that you see on the screen. It creates the wallet in the browser. You can send an asset to the wallet. That wallet can then be sent to the person with a link as a gift. And when they open the box and they're excited, then it tells them what to do next, including encouraging them to download their own self-custody wallet and transfer that into their own wallet application. It's fundamentally the same flow, but by positioning it to users as a gift rather than a request to do work, it dramatically affects whether or not users are able to successfully onboard. And on that note, talking about onboarding, let's talk about onboarding length and the importance of making onboarding compelling and not just compact. Now, there are some unique challenges with Cosmos, because for many people who are used to centralized exchanges, they may be familiar with Bitcoin and they may be familiar with Ethereum and maybe a handful of others. But there's a number of steps that they need to go through in order to convert from fiat to crypto and then be able to swap to any of the various tokens on the Cosmos ecosystem. There's another extra step that they need to do. Now, Osmosis, which I'm a massive fan of both the branding design and the overall positioning of Osmosis, it's basically not a dark and intimidating thing, but it's a really fun and friendly thing. In order to get started, though, you need to start on the landing page, then go to the swap page, for which there's swap, pools, assets, apps, staking, vote, stats, and many other options. You can't proceed unless you connect your wallet. So if you're really a newbie, you may be unfamiliar with that. But there's 2 buttons here to connect wallet. So you click that. It then asks you to either install Kepler or connect with Wallet Connect. If you're already familiar with crypto, you might think that, hey, if I have a Rainbow wallet, I can maybe use that on Wallet Connect, although you can't really do that. Or, okay, I want to install Kepler. So then I go to the Kepler website where it says download Kepler wallet. Now, each of these pieces can be done very, very well. Good illustrations, good copywriting, all of that. But the combined flow involves a bunch of different steps and a bunch of different jumps. You need to be really, really high intent in order to complete such a flow. Onboarding is a holistic journey. You have a landing page that attracts the user and gets them interested in what you do, but you then need an onboarding process that primes them, that holds their hand through the process. For pro users and people who are very familiar with crypto, this may not be an issue. And for protocols that are designed for those users, it may not be a top priority, and it may not need to be a top priority. But for anything that's going for the mass market, we have to think about the entire flow, not just the beginning, not just the end. The middle matters a lot. But what do most crypto protocols look like? We throw users directly into the application and leave it up to them to click around, explore, and eventually connect their wallet. And after they connect their wallet, it's not that they're provided with documentation or information on how to continue. The concern that I have with this isn't around necessarily even immediate usability. It's that when we rely on people checking our Git books to understand how to use our protocols, they don't read the Git books. They go here, to people like this, how to get every airdrop in Solana. In other words, instead of maintaining control over the destiny of our protocols, we let the crypto scammers on YouTube be the ones to talk for us. So doing that work, I think, is really, really important because it means we maintain that control. Mango Markets, I think, does this pretty well. You don't need to have a username and password to get started, but it first starts by asking your language to customize the interface to something that you're more interested in. And then it reminds you again of why you came in the first place. Cross-collateralized leverage trading, deposit any asset and earn interest automatically, and provides you with get started and show tips. So if you're unclear of how to get started, it redirects you to the help center. If you know exactly what you're doing, you proceed into the application. It's not that complex, but those extra steps can be very, very helpful. This is Gridlock, a social recovery wallet that we worked on that involves you basically onboarding your friends to be able to help restore your private key in the case that you use your wallet. The problem is that's a concept that's new to many people. They don't necessarily understand how it works. So we do force users to go through these 3 screens in the middle. Inviter is asking you to be their trusted guardian. What an honor. You can help them out with minimal effort and no stress. But we do this because if we just assume that our users understand what a social recovery wallet is, or assume that they've just read the Gridlock landing page, which frankly they probably haven't, then they're not going to have a successful experience at the end of the day. The third and last point that I want to run through today is around managing attention, and this has a lot to do with psychology. Keep focus on one thing per page. Don't be boring, but it's also possible to make sure that users' attention aren't being unnecessarily squandered. There's an old psych study that I think is in most Psych 101 courses that's called the JAM study. And it basically means this. There was an experiment that looked at the same grocery store, where on one day they had 60 jams on a table, and the other day they had 6 jams on a table. What they found was interesting. The table that had more jams definitely brought more people to check them out. But the table that had less jams resulted in more overall sales than the table that had more jams. Now, why is that? It's because we have only a fixed attention span. And every time that we add one additional option, we're not adding one additional option. We're not adding to complexity. We're multiplying the complexity of our application. Here's an example of Coinbase's dashboard. Now, dashboards are always tricky because there's a lot of information that needs to be on a given dashboard. But Coinbase brings your attention to one button when you get here, buy and sell. And if you note, there's not a single other button in this interface that uses the same filled-in bold blue color as buy and sell. Why is that? Because they don't want anything to be battling for your attention. When two things in an interface look similar to each other, you have to make a mental decision. Do I click option A or do I click option B? And so every time you add another thing with the same styling, you end up adding more complexity to your interface. A landing page that I really love is capital.xyz, and I've just taken a few screenshots of it for you. It starts with the why. Modern companies are built on capital. But then the rest of the interface comes through. As you scroll through the page, and this is quite, making it quite simple, there is literally a start button on that page. The focus is making sure that on every point of this page, you're only focused on one thing at one time, because that enables everyone to grasp what it is that you're trying to convey. Now, this isn't the way that most dApps actually look, however. So, and I promised I did this with some permission from the Evmos folks. This is what the current Evmos UI looks like right now. Now you see text, 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 and they all use the same styling, the same color, the same opacity, and all of these different cards for total assets, half-life, newsfeed, governance, but they all blend together. Yes, everything's all in one place, but everything also looks the same, meaning that when you get to the Evmos page, you have to make choices between what you want to read first. And it's that leads to users getting an overall feeling of unease when they enter an application for the first time. In the case of Osmosis, I'm a massive fan of the branding and of the illustration set. That's incredibly distinctive in crypto, but at the same time, there's two different Connect Wallet buttons here that are battling for your attention. It's a small detail, but still a detail that can lead users to have that slight feeling of unease when they first get started. On this page as well, we've got Deposit sharing the same opacity, the same color, but a slightly different size as Connect Wallet as well. So I'm unclear where I should be looking at first. Should I be looking at Deposit? Should I be looking at Connect Wallet? Why did those buttons appear on one page, but then they're not on another page? There's ways to clarify that, to bring a little bit more consistency that can make a really, really big impact. Of course, this is not a problem with any particular protocol. It's an industry-wide protocol. This is an example of restake. So much reading, so many numbers. Now, this could be perfectly fine if you know exactly what you're looking for. But to somebody who doesn't know exactly what they're looking for, well, they'll end up probably clicking away. So here's an example of one way that we tweaked that in the past. We worked with a DeFi protocol called Friction. Now, Friction initially looked something a little bit more like this. You could choose a series of vaults that you could invest in, and they had about 60 across the entire Friction platform. Basically, you could find a vault, click it, and then you could deposit an asset to earn yield. But with so many different options, it's hard for users to understand what option they actually want to partake in. So we split up that process. First, we have a landing page, smarter returns on your crypto. Then we explain what a vault is, investment strategies, and then we categorize the vaults, bringing it to a total of 5 that had separate sub-vaults within them, rather than showing all of the options at once, along with visualizations of exactly what those things look like and how they're actually different. And when you click into the vault, that's when you see the assets, reducing the number of jars of jam that we're showing at any one time in order to get more people to buy them. It is okay if this makes flows longer, as long as you're able to reduce the amount of decision-making work that people have to do at any given phase. Family, the Ethereum wallet, does a great job of this. Now, if you've imported a secret phrase before, you know that you end up with screens that have lots and lots of different boxes on them. With Family, they show you one at a time, because you're only typing into one box at a time. You don't need to show all of them at once. We're running a little bit low on time, so I want to just summarize the remaining points here and leave you with one final thought. Consistency across an interface and intentionality around color, around text, around positioning. These are all the things that make users feel supported and improve the experience for users. These are the things that, if we really care about measuring the number of successes, not the number of users that enter our applications, these are the things that matter. So for everyone here, I just wanted to put this up on the screen so you could see some of the points that I talked about in the talk today. I'm so encouraged when I meet builders in this community because of how many people are in this for the right reasons and want to build a more inclusive financial system and a better and decentralized web. I want to make sure that we make this mindset shift now. Forget about the scammers. Forget about the folks that sometimes give us a bad name. We're here to make the web a better place, and by adopting the mindset of a designer, there's so many ways we can make that better. So for anyone, if you want to chat afterwards, happy to. You can also connect with me on Telegram using the QR code up there. And of course, you can visit us at airfoil.studio to learn more about the company as well. Thanks so much, everybody. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming.